What's up, guys? So we got a question from Sam down in Mexico, and Samuel's question is about an open mat session that he's been going to. It's at this gym where they focus primarily on mixed martial arts. He's a blue belt right now, and he says that when he goes there to train, he says that every person that he rolls with from this gym is rolling with him with the intensity of like a world championship finals match, right? Just 100%, just you can hear that kind of grunting and breathing going on. And he says that when he rolls with them, he gets really nervous about being injured because he's like, man, they'll just crank something, right? They just pop and go for it. And he says he's really worried about it, but at the same time, he wants to go to the open mat because he feels like he gets obviously some value out of rolling with other people, and he also doesn't want to feel like a coward. So he's wondering if I have any tips on this. So Samuel, thanks for the question, brother. And this reminds me of a situation that I was in back when I was a blue belt, purple belt, when there were several gyms, jiu-jitsu gyms in the city, and then there were a couple of these, I would guess you would consider them garage gyms, right? You would have a few guys that, had done something, and they would all get together and they would invite their buddies, and everybody would kind of come together and they would just beat the shit out of each other, for lack of a better term, and they would somehow learn things haphazardly. I remember training with these guys several times, and what I realized is that when you're in mixed martial arts, when that's your main focus, you roll differently. You don't roll like a jiu-jitsu practitioner. A jiu-jitsu practitioner has this sort of, a lot of times we take on this cadence of this methodical approach where we're going to do this to this to this, right? I'm going to take the person down or pull guard, I'm going to get you a dominant position, and then I'm going to work for the submission, right? You kind of go through this thing. A lot of times what I found was I would be rolling with these MMA guys, and I would be in good positions, and I would just be kind of working my way along, and then all of a sudden they would like grab a wrist and they would just rip something, and I was frustrated by this because I'm like, look, I know I'm better than these guys. I feel like I'm better, right? Technically, I know more information, and I'm just making mistakes, and they're making me pay for them. Whereas a lot of times, jiu-jitsu guys would fight for position more. These guys, they'll just look around, and if they see anything that they can tug on, they'll just rip it. And I think this is also coming from the fact that with the way that they have to train, if you're going to fight MMA, you have to have a certain level of urgency when you grapple. You can't, like a jiu-jitsu guy can grapple. You watch a match sometimes and they're like locked up and they're wiping sweat off their face, and then they're like, taking a breather, and then they kind of keep going. Mixed martial arts is not like that, man. And I understand this from personal experience. When you grapple, everything has to be with urgency, because especially if you're on in a position where someone can punch you, one punch will end the fight. So you have to be conscious of that, and so you have to move with a lot of urgency. And so a lot of times I found that rolling with these guys that were in mixed martial arts, they weren't mean guys. They would rip anything they could get a hold of, and they would crank stuff because it was just the way that they were trained, and it was what they were preparing for. So that said, how do you get used to rolling with them? Well, one thing is that if you're rolling with someone and they're able to crank on get you in a lock of some sort, the fact that I was more technical than them, yes, maybe this is true, but I was making mistakes. I was leaving my arm out, and they made me pay for it. And because I wanted to improve, I was very mindful of that. One of the things I would do is I would pass and I would leave my arm, I'd get caught in kimura. So I started tucking everything in much tighter, made my over-under passing better. And I'm sure there's some situations with you where you're rolling with these guys and they're able to get something on you that your guys in your gym that you train with normally don't really go after. It's a lesson to you, man. It's like, listen, there's something here, you got to learn from it. Now, if they roll hard, but they're respectful afterwards, I would say keep going, right? Because again, that's going to be beneficial for you. They might be rolling a little rough, but learn how to deal with that. Because, every grappling style, whether it be Judo, Sambo, or, people that had come from a mixed martial arts background, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, every one of these grappling backgrounds, when you mix them together and you roll people from these other backgrounds, they roll a little bit differently. Everybody has a certain cadence, and it's really beneficial. It's not comfortable, but it's beneficial to learn from it, because I know that there's been several times where I've seen good Jiu-Jitsu practitioners who have never ventured out of their own gym, like black belts, right? They'll roll with someone who comes from primarily like a Sambo background or a wrestling background or a more of an MMA grappling background, right? Where they were grappling solely for the purpose of MMA, and they have a hell of a time dealing with these guys because they never learned how to cope with this different sort of feel, this different sort of style. So one of the things you could do is you could learn from this. Now, that said, If you're going in there and everybody's like, if they're cranking submissions and they're ripping stuff, they're not giving you a chance to tap, and afterwards they're like puffing their chest up and they're acting like assholes, then I wouldn't go, because of the fact that that's gonna just make the experience really nasty for you. Like, you're gonna go to the gym and it's not gonna be like all right, I'm gonna test my style against your style and let's kind of see what happens, right? You're no longer playing the game. You're gonna start getting frustrated and angry because like someone's gonna start doing mean stuff to you, and you're not gonna want to tap. You're not gonna want to, like, you know, play nice. You're not gonna want to enjoy the situation. You're gonna want to just beat the guy because he's being a jerk afterwards, right? So you don't want that to be a part of it. So if that's what's going on, I would just whatever, like, let that go, because you don't want to be around those people. If they're going to crank submissions, not give you a chance to tap, and they're going to act like jerks afterwards, I don't even want to be a part of that. But if they're just rolling with a certain level of intensity that you're not used to, or urgency because of the fact that, again, they're getting ready for a fight, you might say, listen, I'm not comfortable with this, but they're cool afterwards and they're very welcoming. So, I mean, they're not mean. They're just rolling a little differently. I can learn from this. And I would think that would be beneficial for you. So, Sam, brother, hope this helps you with your situation, and good luck to you.